pretty good. And he took this during the one and only debate that Rob Woodall dared to join us for.
Yeah, right.
And it's one of my favorite pictures. It's really got like that's Shane. Shane is like this. You're a happy warrior, Shane. And
I try to be. I've tried to get rid of the angry Shane a long time ago, and I think my first time out of the camp, like the first time out of the box, I was there's still some residual like, yeah, God, I can't stand the state, right?
some residual.
It's
okay, you guys tell me on the podcast if it sounds like residual. No, I think there's a place for anger and frustration, right?
Yeah,
like,
but
that's what drives some of our reactions is because it just feels so wrong. If we're talking about like simple words, something feels wrong. Humans' natural reaction to wrong, like morally wrong things, is supposed to be discussed.
Yeah.
Then, like higher level human beings are supposed to be able to channel that correctly.
Right.
In the same way that I'm channeling, not getting so frustrated by the fact that Shane's cable on his mic there, mic, is like way off. My OCD is just going all over the place.
So I've been thinking a lot about this kind of stuff lately in terms of what has to happen in terms of getting to that point. We've talked about the spectrum a number of times out there, and one of the things that
what spectrum are we talking about?
The spectrum of going from like awakening to warrior, like the happy warrior, right? And that is the fact that, you know, you're gonna go through some anger. You're gonna go through some disbelief, and that's gonna lead to anger, and then you're just gonna feel like you've been lied to your entire life. Then comes the study and the knowledge, and you can still be angry during that time. And then what happens is when you get into, you know, I was thinking about it just last night even, is the ideas of peace and the very hard aspect of love. Right? It sounds very hippy-dippy, right?
You know I love hippy-dippy stuff,
Peace
Shane.
and love. And to come from, you know, a Marine, that is maybe not something that most people would understand and think. But the peace, you have to want to seek the peace part. The love part, in terms of looking at anybody and everybody out there as a fellow human being, not a Democrat, not a Republican, not part of a clique, but as an individual that has life experiences that are unique to them and why they are where they are. That wanting to find common ground and reconciliation and to foster either a relationship, but more or less just a common respect, right? That love part, I think, is what people like Ron Paul, Jacob Hornberger, the happy warriors that are out there that Stuart Smith out
Jones.
of Stuart Jones out of South Carolina, Tyler Lindholm, Pat McGeehan. These guys, although they burn for liberty and they have the passion, and there is this thing that you see ooze out of them, is when they approach other people, it's love.
That's really funny because I was getting ready to say my part instead.
Oh, sorry.
No. Instead of listening to you correctly, but the thing that was in my head, I just want to use the word ooze because my impression of Ron Paul. There's stories. So there's this one story where Ron Paul was at a fundraiser or an event, right? It wasn't a fundraiser. It was some kind of like voter event, and he's leaving, and he's in his like car that's being driven, and these two people like run out with End the Fed books or some kind of Ron Paul book, End the Fed or Revolution Manifesto or Defend Liberty. Those are the three big ones. And they want to get it signed, and he's got his handlers, who are also Liberty people for the most part. Side story.
I know it too.
I won't go down. And they're kind of like shooing them off, saying like, hey, Ron's been there for like hours, shaking all your hands and so forth. There's no time for this. And Ron sees this, and he like waves them over to his window and takes the time not only to sign their books, but to give them to give him some of the time he does not have.
Yeah.
And the story at his birthday, this is his birthday where there's hundreds of people gathered there. At his birthday, he has a line so people can take pictures and he can sign books, which is already ridiculous. I mean, this is supposed to be for him, and he's giving all this time to other people. And I was lucky enough to get my picture and so forth, and then be the person who was designated to take pictures, like take the people's phones and take pictures for at least like 12 or so people. And every single time he had something interesting, personal, or just loving to say to people.
Cool.
To my friend Matt, Matt handed him the End of Fed book and said, "Could you sign it, please?" And he looks at it and he's like, "Oh, you're one of those radicals." He just, on top of those stories, there's just something about him which oozes that love.
Yeah.
Oozes that I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to take your stuff.
It's this is, I mean, and this may be one thing that I think, the indoctrination process gets right, is it's not that it's so much a love for a government. It is love for your fellow countrymen and human being. And I would just want to say people in general, right? Yeah. It's like that wanting to make sure that they are not oppressed, not picked on, by the state or anybody for that matter, that they're not taken advantage of. That's the love that I think that these happy warriors, they'd rather die than see something happen to these people.
Yeah. And then I see some people, so Ron Paul understands economics so well. Yeah. And foreign policy and the history of America and where our ideas originally came from, which is something that I've been thinking about more lately, is the fact that the founding fathers, when you read them, they're not just saying their ideas, they're quite humble in the way that they reference other people. The ideas of the Greeks and the ideas of the French philosophers who are part of the American Revolution and so forth. I think it's really cool. That humility and that way of seeing, like, this is the idea of liberty is not like mine. It's all these other people who have come up with it.
To be a part of it.
It's not new. It's just this one simple thing.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going a little bit, but do you want to go through your website and critique it? So
yeah. So this is the landing page. I can't wait to hear your your critiques of the page.
So I tell candidates that you can like discuss a campaign sign or campaign logo for hours, and nobody's going to be intrinsically wrong because it's art, right?
Yeah. It's just how do you want to communicate?
You can have opinions. So I don't have hard criticism for it.
Yeah.
But I think that picture is awesome. I personally like that the Shane Hazel and United States Senate is kind of small,
subdued.
Yeah, like me.
Thanks.
You want to scroll down?
Sure.
So now we're to the first paragraph of Shane's campaign. You want to read it for us?
Shall I? My mission is to bring people together while preserving the freedom of every individual, regardless of skin color, age, faith, gender, love, and every other nuance which makes us unique. We must come together and remove the government corporate cabals from the lives of peaceful people here in the U.S. and around the world.
My favorite part is that you put corporate cabals in there. I think that's awesome. And right below there is a donation button, but it doesn't say donate. It says invest in liberty and support the campaign here, which my only critique would be like people who are involved in politics, which is not the only people we want to reach out to, but people who are involved in politics recognize donate more. And it's kind of, it's smaller. It's not at the very top of the website, but I can't help my corny side, my like hippie side likes that it's phrased in a different way and not in your face. And would make it so that people who click on it are very intentional instead of being just like sold something in your face, like, and wait, there's more.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I could put another button right below it that says donate that goes to the same site.
You should track who clicks on donate and who clicks on invest in liberty.
Exactly. Then I threw in this picture because this is my world right here, man. Between my wife, my son Jackson, my son Henry, and my daughter Sawyer. I mean, this is my favorite place on earth, and to be there with them, to show them this for the first time. This is what, besides everybody else out there, this is my family, man. And to keep everything in perspective, this is what we do it for. This is why we're doing it. That's why this is here. Then it takes us to kind of
issues, man.
It's not even.
Those are issues.
They're issues. This is kind of the theme of the campaign. In terms of what we are pushing foremost, and where we will take policy if we're elected. It's in the wars. It is long past time to bring the men and women in service home. Undeclared, unconstitutional, never-ending war is used to enslave Americans through debt and taxation. 20 years of war is enough death and destruction for a lifetime. It's time for peace. The next bullet. Have you comments?
No, I think that's a wonderful way to phrase that. I wouldn't change that at all.
At all? In the Fed, Both Democrats and Republicans have enslaved every American for generations to come through a $23 trillion debt owed to a faceless, unaccountable international banking cabal that is growing at over $1 trillion a year. It is time for free markets.
I like that. The only thing that I might change is I would spell through fully.
I know you would.
For those listening, he's got through THRU.
Space, man. It's all about space.
I understand. And then I would put, so you put a lowercase d and r at Democrats and Republicans.
Yep.
I would put a uppercase d and r, and I would put Democrat and Republican politicians.
Okay.
And even then, you're generalizing because we have some Democrat and Republican politicians who are not enslaving America and so forth. But it's a broad enough and understandable enough concept that, okay, there's exceptions. But there you're kind of talking about a bigger swath of people who, as wrong as they may be.
Yeah.
And I just went to the Republican convention on Saturday in Cherokee County, and many people there are wrong and are cheerleading some things that I think are horrible. But I would have some empathy for how they might get lost in the mess that is modern politics.
I put it like that because it definitely wasn't the libertarians. Not it. And lastly, not least, in the empire, the bureaucratic DC cabal is deployed in 150 countries around the world for the interest of international aristocrats, not Americans, and they need to be exposed and removed. Wars, taxes, policies, quote, laws, permits, debt are all out of control and must be abolished. It's time for liberty.
I love that you put it's time for peace, it's time for free markets, it's time for liberty. Sounds a little bit like the rebellion tagline, which I also love. That is really cool. I think that's awesome. So it's making me think of an idea I had driving here.
Yeah.
I heard this stupid, it's helping people with this ad for like tax relief, right? It's like they're out to get all your, they're going to like get your paycheck, and they're going to take everything from you. And we can help you here. We have these plans that the IRS has told us of how you can get debt relief, and we can protect you.
Sure.
And one of their comments was, and every day you wait, they're tacking on interest.
Yeah.
And my thought was, it would be interesting, maybe, this is like, I could be wrong, but the interest part sparked an idea in my head that, okay, so they're charging you interest if you don't pay your taxes. But if you don't pay your taxes, in their mind, it means that they can't pay for stuff, so they have to take out debt, right? Mm-hmm. But we're also being charged interest for that debt. So It seems like twice the interest is a little bit messed up. And I think that a bill under that auspice of you can't charge interest on non-paid taxes, of course, that doesn't change my opinion that taxes are theft.
Stuff, yeah.
But it would be a conversation piece of, hey, a conversation piece actually gearing more towards the debt and being like, hey, we're already being charged interest when we don't pay. Actually, those who pay are also being charged interest.
It's all interest.
I'm not going to blame the people who do a smart job of paying less taxes. Good for you guys.
Yeah, that's right.
But that double interest is messed up, and that would be an interesting way to get people to think like, double interest. I hate paying more money. Even people who love government, right?
Yeah.
We're all about, we're going to force our views on them, and we're going to force them our views on the other side. Don't like paying taxes. Bernie Sanders is an awesome example.
Oh, sure.
Because he pays as little as possible, right?
Yeah, he's not paying extra.
And he's defended that, which, man, as much as he's more honest in some ways than other politicians.
Man, we're going to get into that later.
The few times that he in a big way, like there's a lot of people paying attention where he gets called out, he always just sounds so pathetic.
I agree.
If I was a Bernie supporter, which is never going to happen, I would be disillusioned when he did that.
Yeah.
Like, this is the time. This is the time when somebody says you have 3 houses and you're a millionaire and now you only criticize billionaires instead of also millionaires. Like, this is the time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
this brings us to this portion. This is where people can find content. You know, people that may not be as familiar with the show as our everyday, rebel, our audience. And so I thought we'd put this in here.
To paint a picture for those who are just listening, this is a picture of the rebellion. It's Shane and I laughing, smiling, and then he's got a link to our videos. There's one video that's so sponsored. No, showcased.
It's just showcased. Yeah, and so basically, it's there's a button on here where it will take you just to the YouTube channel. And then
you want to click on it?
sure. And it works. Look at this.
That is so cool.
Amazing tech. So it obviously takes you to all the videos, which you can find on YouTube. And then you can go to over 150 podcasts, which takes you to therebellionpod.com. And man, that's a good looking website too.
So cool. The only thing I changed here is I would link it to the episodes and articles link so that people who are going to over 150 podcasts, it like the top thing is cool too, but that might be like they might not scroll down and might not understand. That's a give or take.
Yeah.
One, I'm not sure, but that is really cool. I love being part of your campaign.
You're definitely part of my campaign. And I mean, the Rebellion is going to be front and center during this whole thing. It's going to be probably the main platform and driver for the campaign. Which, you know, when you're $11 million down, you got to do something. So here's the focus. And I just put focus in here. This is all going to be subject to change as things go on. But this is in terms of policy and what's extremely important to me, what I would hope to affect as a senator, right? Mm-hmm. This is a picture of my kids here in the backyard. This says, is there an idea more radical in history of the human race than turning your children over to total strangers whom you know nothing about and having those strangers work on your child's mind out of your sight for a period of 12 years? Could there be a more radical idea than that? John Taylor Gatto. And so I've captioned these with where I stand, and maybe I'm getting too far ahead here.
No. It's a really cool picture. They're looking over a cliff. Shane's three kids, and Shane and Meredith, they've got like picture taking down.
Yeah,
it looks amazing.
Thank you to the guys over at Apple. You know, between just seeing things and be able to mimic and, you know, YouTube, what you can do with a picture from an iPhone and video from an iPhone. For you guys that don't know, we record this on iPhones, and because it's super easy, because at the cloud, if I need to do something, I can just bring it over from that to this and do whatever I need to do in terms of editing with it. It's brilliant. I mean, I know there's other methods, but that's my preferred method. Anyway, the education, obviously, this audience is no stranger. It is one of the most important things that I think in terms of correcting the issue of this fundamental understanding of reverence that we have for the out of control, you know, government that's taken over this country. And so as a U.S. senator, what's great is you just have one role in that, and it's get the federal government completely out of education without any exception whatsoever. Period. And that's what, you know, this is the subject here. Education, public schooling is government indoctrination, and it must be abolished at the federal level. Government and liberty are mutually exclusive, so freedom in education is essential in maximizing each individual's unique passions, genius, and potential. The ability of people to think critically, solve problems, and prosper has shown throughout history to lift the human condition.
I like it.
Fair enough.
In your original education piece, when you're running for Congress, you also had that thing about the human condition, which you added. And I remember telling you that I specifically liked that because it was in the corny style.
Yeah, I'm telling you what, man. When it comes to being just this, you know, sucker for, like, I don't know, feeling and just, you know, what it really means to be a human society, right? Like, I'm real big on this idea that, you know, if we can get together as a species on peace, liberty, and free markets, you don't hurt people, you don't take their stuff. What is possible scientifically through technology and advancement, and if that's your goal, instead of destruction and war and pushing that type of technology, mm-hmm. I think the possibilities are absolutely endless.
Yeah, we have these approved ways in society. So I'm talking about culture more here. We have these approved ways in society where we're allowed to be what I call corny, and I say corny over and over, I know. But where we're allowed to show that human side, which everybody recognizes. Yeah. Humans are emotional creatures that communicate ideas between each other in an emotional way. Yeah. But we've got all these like approved one, like at Valentine's Day, you're not only allowed to, but you're supposed to do that, right? You're supposed to in a bigger way than usual communicate that you love. I guess it's not just the spouse or partner, it's also like the kids. I don't do Valentine's Day for the most part, and so I don't understand exactly what is everybody allowed to be your Valentine these days. It doesn't matter, but you've got all these approved ways in society where you're allowed to do it, and then these other ways where if you do it, you come across as like super weird, dude.
Yeah.
Like look at that guy. He's a little bit too hippie, a little bit too corny, a little bit too weird.
That's weird,
like,
isn't it?
What's going on? I had this amazing highlight of my day, which now this is also a highlight of my day. I've had a lot of highlights of my day today. But I had this highlight of my day when the guy who was deodorizing my new house, we had a conversation, and when we finished the conversation, I was walking away. He said, you're a beautiful person. You have a wonderful soul. And that comes across as not normal, right? Like,
no, man.
Like,
there are very few people that will come up to you and tell you that. I mean, especially like on a chance meeting, right? Or somebody you don't know really well.
Yeah, I mean, I met him once before for like 2 minutes, and today we talked for like 30 minutes. But there was definitely an understanding. He's also has libertarian ideas.
Yeah.
Even like not even libertarian, just like don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. And he was like, yeah, that right there. That's what I like. But it's actually what we want to hear. Like it made me a little, like it made me smile. And I don't see how it would not make most people smile. It might make some people a little bit uncomfortable because they're not used to it, and that's not what we see like in daily life. But what is more like rewarding and fulfilling than being told, hey, I see you and I think you're a great person?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if you want to make people cry, do that. You know, like happy tears, but at the same time, like, I mean, that burns in here somewhere where it just gets you. You go, oh. Hold on, let me clean myself up before we keep going.
And to play devil's advocate, I really imagine so. At the convention I went to for the Republican Party in Cherokee County, they played this clip. And I'm going to find it. I haven't found it yet. I asked somebody to send it to me. They haven't sent it to me yet. But it was this clip on not on YouTube, but of a Donald Trump speech. And over it were all these images from George Washington to Amelia Earhart, pictures of the Revolution, pictures of like the Industrial Revolution and so forth,
right.
Showing like where we've been, our ideas. And that part of Trump's speech was actually like 2 thumbs up. And it made me tear up a little bit. I saw other people just like gasp and cry, and they all clapped so loud and like stood up and like yelled and so forth afterwards. I venture to say that most of what is actually speaking to people, even if they don't realize it, they're a little bit too much in the mode of cheering on like a king. But most of what is actually speaking to their feelings, what has made them vote for Trump in the first place and support him the way they do. I mean, 98% of the Republican Party supports Trump, which is the highest ever approval rating for a Republican within the Republican Party, is emotional things. They see the idea of what they value in life, whether it's their kids, family, being able to prosper and grow businesses and have like this happiness in life, right? They see that as Trump bringing that back. And this video was so well made that it could really speak to anybody. I'm sure that people who hate him would hear his voice at the very first second and just shut down.
Yeah.
But if you're open-minded, nothing in that was anything else but we want to live in freedom, peace, and liberty, and do great things, and we recognize that we're not there yet, but we can get there together. If you take off the veneer, okay, you take off the voice and you can't recognize the voice.
Remove the personality.
And take off the historical attachments, because he does like Washington. Some people think he was horrible and all that kind of stuff. It would make anybody cry.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Yeah. We're scrolling down. We've got a picture that I wish we had during Shane's congressional campaign. I failed completely in not being able to get this, but is it a picture of Shane with an AR-15, holding it like a Recon Marine would, perfectly, and he's looking badass as hell. And it was taken apparently like 5 minutes before I got here. Within a few seconds, it's got the backdrop of Lake Arrowhead. And
we're not saying anymore.
I realized that as I was saying it.
It'll be beeped out somewhere.
But it is absolutely badass, Shane.
Yeah, so this is for rights, man. And when every other right fails to be recognized, I guess this is kind of a statement, if you will, right? This is I want people to understand that the time for screwing around and the we're going to ask permission and take this lightly is over. Like this, that we are as peaceful as we are, as much as we want to love. This idea right here, peace and love and a happy warrior who's got a lid on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want people to understand.
This is the idea that people buy into when we talk about like overwhelming force. Like America has to have its defense like at 100 all the time, because that is how you stave off tyranny. Funny, because we have so much tyranny here in America.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really good way to communicate to a certain type of people, and I think the picture is just awesome.
Thanks.
You want to read the
caption? The caption here is rights. Imagine thinking that a government cabal comprised and led by murderers, thieves, thugs, and liars should also have a monopoly on force or any say in your right to self-preservation, property, association, speech, belief, privacy, and redress. Dangerous liberty is far safer than even a limited government. When it comes to the rights of free women and men aren't restricted by government in the form of taxes, policy, permits, and licenses. Therefore, life, liberty, and property are not of the purview of the federal government and should be abolished and nullified at all levels of government.
You're running for U.S. Senate, Shane. What are you talking about? Like these high-level ideas that apply to the world? Come on, man. Stay on point, okay?
Yeah.
Who is your general consultant? What's happening here?
Yeah, me. That's. I think that is the one thing that I find extremely different this time around. Is at this point, I'm okay with whatever people want to think, whatever people want to say. I just get to be who I am. Because here's the thing is, if I fake it, what do we got, 165 episodes out there where people are going to go, he's faking it. He's not real. He is just this, guy that's looking for some kind of attention. No, man, this is real. This is what I think, and this is who I am. And, what do they say? It's better to be hated for who you are than loved for somebody you aren't. This is what it is. Of these in rights, I think are important.
You've got arms, property, and beliefs.
Yep. Any politician that supports any arms policy, tax, registration, regulation, licensing, confiscation is pro-gun control. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like it. I might add at the end something like I'm not. It's not I'm not, but some kind of short sentence that has an affirmation. Some of this might be a little bit too esoteric for some people, and so just clarifying it for them at the end might be positive.
All gun control is despotism. Property. You have the right to your property free of tax, policy, regulation, licensing, registration, and confiscation. Pretty simple statement. Beliefs. You should never be forced or coerced to pay for anything that you do not consent to, period.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, the government should be, quote unquote, protecting these ideas and your rights, but instead they've done the opposite in terms of all those things.
Yeah, I think I would just add a small sentence to the end of every one of those. And I like what you did previously, where you had like that sentence at the end. I think it would be cool.
Okay, I can definitely do that.
You got Banksy up here.
I do, man.
Not Banksy me, but Banksy the artist, and you've got one of my favorite pictures of him, which is a little girl graffitied onto a wall, and she's got a balloon that she's let go of.
Yeah, and it's I think you brought this to my attention one time actually, and I saw it and I was like, I was looking up pictures to put in here. This is for criminal justice reform, and I thought what a striking picture, first and foremost. I don't know if it'll stay or what, but it is definitely going to, it's striking to me. Criminal justice reform. Let's define crime. Crime requires a victim. Murder, rape, assault, kidnapping, robbery, coercion, burglary, and property damage all have a victim. All other law and policy are essentially fantasy crime, for the state is a legal fiction and cannot be the victim. Nonviolent criminal policy like the war on drugs, red flag laws, and civil asset forfeiture must be abolished at the federal level and nullified at the state and local level. Nonviolent prisoners must be freed so that America can begin to heal the communities that have been destroyed by these disastrous policies. In conjunction, this will eliminate the need for militarized police and speed the return of peace officers, making the lives of the community and those who they serve safer and more prosperous.
That's a really good way to write it. The only thing I might add is those, and I'm not exactly sure how, but those that they serve and themselves safer. And I like that would highlight empathy, because the world we live in is bad, not just for the people who are subjugated, right?
Yeah.
But for the people who are doing the subjugation as well.
For sure.
There are wonderful people who are part of the education system.
Oh,
your wife used to be part of that. You used to be part of the military.
Yeah.
I'm part of it in ways because
we were all duped.
I work in politics.
Yeah.
Some of the things are better justified than others, and some people have done a better job at penance than others. But we're all, except for a time, and it's the argument that Jordan Peterson says when somebody attacks him and says male oppression is like a thing. He's like, no, people who have been oppressed are throughout history have been 99.99999% of people. The people at the top, even if sometimes they were mostly men, are a small minority.
Sure.
The vast majority of us, 9.9999%, are all subjugated to one degree or another.
Sure, absolutely. I couldn't disagree with that.
Your site is making me, like, I would love to read. I wish I had the opportunity to read exactly this on somebody else's site and be like, who is this guy? Oh my God, there's somebody else. We're not alone.
Yeah, and then down here, to kind of show, hey man, been there, done it, got the T-shirt, and then obviously the awful legal disclaimers that you have to put on.
So for those just listening, it's a few pictures of Shane during his time in the military.
Yeah, shows been there and done it.
I like it. So Banksy has I can't remember exactly what it looks like, but he has a picture that, as much as I like that one for a criminal justice reform, he has a picture, and it's a cop, and there's a body on the ground, and the red part is like blood, and it's blood and flowers. You know that there's that picture where it's a gun and flowers come out.
Yep.
It's another one kind of like that. It's a gun, but there's flowers coming out and blood. It's a little bit more in your face. But I like it.
He's also got the one where the guy's throwing a Molotov cocktail bottle with flowers in it, right?
He does.
Yeah. He's got some really...
He's got one which is really cool. It's a tank, and there's that same little girl which is in front of the tank, and she's like holding a heart or a teddy bear or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
The reason I mentioned to you probably before is because on my way back from Amsterdam 1 or 2 Christmases ago, I went to the museum, the Banksy Museum in Amsterdam, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I have to go check it out. I was just there.
I guess it's not the Banksy Museum. It's a museum called the Monaco it's not Monaco, Monaco or something like that. And they have a permanent exposition of Banksy there.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, should we
should take
transition and get into questions now?
Yeah.
Are
they
are
totally ignored people?
Well, I think building the questions and having a reserve there is not a bad thing to do, because
we certainly have enough.
We have questions, huh?
We do.
Wonderful.
Why can't I see them all? I have to full screen this and scroll. Okay, so we had a hello from Mary.
Hello, Mary.
And the first question is from Adam Godbold, who I saw this morning at church.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. You're actually part of the second episode we're going to record for Friday's episode. You and Hunter were instrumental in at least getting my idea that I brought to Shane, like my mind flowing about that. But he says, why do police get to wear their uniforms and use their equipment, example, gear, car, lights, etc., when working off duty for extra income? Essentially, isn't that impersonation of an officer in some stretch of a way? So I would guess he says this because on Sundays here in the South, you'll see a lot of off-duty cops doing traffic for churches. And most of those that I know of, at least, are paid by the church. And I've had a somewhat similar thought. And my thought is, whether it's teachers or law enforcement, everybody's always saying, hey, they're not paid enough. We need to pay them more. And you're not allowed to ask how much is enough, because it's never enough. Okay, you've always got to pay them more. And one of the calculations that they don't make, because some are being disingenuous and some are not. I've got the sound on my computer.
Where is that coming from?
But one of the calculations they don't make, either because they're disingenuous or they don't know, is that there's a lot of benefits. The reason benefits exist to the extent they exist is because of the tax code. And unions and so forth figured out that they could avoid a bunch of taxes if they just gave something of value
Right.
in the form of benefits instead of just straight pay.
Sure.
And so when you calculate it, teachers in the whole United States actually are not as underpaid as people think. Some of them are not underpaid at all, and most teachers in most states make way over the median income
Oh, sure.
of Americans. Like, I don't know if that's controversial to say.
No.
It's just a matter of fact.
It not only is it not controversial, it is strikingly true when you account for days off, paid leave. I mean, between the summer, the fall, the winter, the spring breaks that are now incorporated. Back in the day, we only had spring breaks, and now they've got fall and winter breaks and everything. It just shows you nobody
Becoming more and more like France.
Nobody likes going to school, and I should say the government indoctrination school, including the teachers and the administration, probably more so than even the kids sometimes. But I don't know, yeah, the idea of having cops out there with our money that's funded things like the vehicle and everything in that vehicle, and I don't know if their uniforms are paid for or not. I imagine in some places they are, in some places they aren't, and whatever that
Details.
nuance. I don't care. The uniform is the least of my worries, but in terms of the equipment and the transportation to and from, you darn right, man. That's a problem for me. Like, I appreciate the fact that they can work in other capacities. I'm fine with that. And I think, I don't think you need to have a badge and a uniform on to conduct traffic, right? Like, let's safely put something together and have people get out and conduct traffic. I mean, have you ever showed up as a first responder to a scene, right? If the scene has got a nurse or a doctor or the people are okay, one of the best things you can do is just help conduct traffic until, the authorities get there.
What's funny is when there is less government, and this weird circumstance of flying on a plane, there's usually not like a police officer there or the other government services to call.
Sure.
And what do people do when somebody is like sick or something? They ask, hey, where is somebody a doctor? Can we get some voluntary help from all these non-government entities that are filling this plane?
And usually somebody jumps up with at least a minimum of, some first responder type training.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I don't, if we're going to have this limited government, necessary evil at best thing, I don't necessarily have a problem with them doing this. I just think that there's a problem if the people in charge are dishonest about the benefit. It's an extra benefit, right? It's like, hey, you work 40 hours a week, and you can go work more and use this, which is paid for by taxpayers, to actually make more money.
Yeah.
If I want to make more money as a janitor, I've got to buy a mop and I've got to drive there on my own gasoline, and I probably need a bucket too.
Yeah.
So this is a benefit. If they were honest in the fact that there is this benefit available, and maybe multiple systems arise to me, they could take money out of their pay to make up for that, or they could just acknowledge it as some kind of benefit, and that's part of the salary benefits.
Or here's the other thing is, if you are a private organization and you want to hire an official to, an official police officer, then there needs to be a going rate. Okay, his time in this unit is worth X amount per hour. And you're in that way, the taxpayers aren't picking up another cost associated with something that doesn't directly benefit them.
Yeah, so you could do it that way, or you could just do it with he would have to pay or have his salary reduced, the public salary reduced when he went out and did other things.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people would be like, well, you want like police. They do this with teachers too. Teachers who have like a summer job. Like, how in America do teachers have to have a second job? We must not pay them enough. It's like, no, like everybody has opportunities to do more. Okay. I don't know how much the average person works, but you can do more. You can work 80 hours in a week. I'm sure Shane is very aware of that. And
this
he
week
knows
was
I'm
one
very
of
aware
those,
of that.
man. Yeah.
And so that's not necessarily something that's intrinsically bad, that somebody who is making more than the median salary, and I think actually law enforcement is not as well paid as teachers in average.
Maybe even benefits too.
At least in Georgia.
Yeah.
But still, that's not a bad thing that somebody wants to work more to make more money.
Yep, I agree. And honestly, I think police should most of the time be used as firefighter. As firefighters are employed, it's wait till there's a call that comes in and then you respond, and you leave those vehicles at the precinct so they're not incurring additional mileage and wear and tear at the cost of the people that actually pay for them.
Yeah, I there's this big mega church. I have nothing intrinsically against big mega churches, but they had like 4 cops, so all the cop cars and the cops are in their gear and so forth, and I couldn't help but think, okay, the people who worship the state the most and who have more money, because like my church doesn't have cops. We don't need cops because there's not a lot of us. It's attached to my phone.
Okay.
They're being subsidized. Like it's might be a small portion. It might be a small amount of money. I might be making a big drama for nothing, but they're subsidized by the state.
Yeah.
In that form, and that pisses me off.
Yeah. I was gonna say there's static coming in. There's a floor coming in from it. That's why I was gonna just unplug it altogether, probably.
Cool.
Oh, now it's still going. That's weird. It almost got worse.
Oh, I hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, my phone over here.
Boy, where's that coming from? We are all over the place with this. That's better.
Apple is the culprit. this little Apple adapter.
Anyway, always striving for a better sound. What's next over there in terms of questions?
So let me scroll back to the top. So Hunter Hill says, "What up, boys?"
What up, Hunter?
Justin says, "Greetings, Liberty gents. Happy Sunday to you."
Justin,
and he has a question. He says, "Question: whose idea was it to make the studio purple? Because it's great."
It's mine. My favorite color is this purple with, it's almost like a neon purplish, where it's a bright purple light, not just purple in general. But yeah.
3 years in, and I lose all respect for Shan Hazel. No, I think the purple is definitely not my favorite color, but I think the way the lighting works with the purple, I mean, it makes things pop.
Yeah,
so much.
I mean, we didn't even turn on the white lights over there yet, which it's been kind of. I was like, well, we'll just do it once we play one of the clips from the Democratic debate if we ever get to it. So yeah, no, thank you guys. I work awfully hard in trying to take this set and make it a professional looking set. And
it looks.
I think we're about there, man.
I know we're auto-complimenting ourselves at this point.
I think there's some knick-knack stuff that once we get it into our permanent studio here, hopefully by the end of the year, the knick-knacky, like fun stuff to kind of look at in the background and go, what is that? Or, that's pretty cool. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah, we talked about putting a shelving around the 3 walls.
Yeah.
And then just having stuff up there, books and so forth.
Right.
Next thing, Adam Godbold said, "Yep, Bart especially." So we'll get to Bart's comment at some point, or he deleted it. Then Justin says, "Justin, that's a funny quote, a funny question." He says, "Do you believe that you can walk on water?"
Maybe with some technical assistance someday.
Then he says, "It's more reverberating than it is residual hatred of the state." Your reverberation. Like the state. At this point, I think, Shane, what happens is the state has a vibe, right? Like your
vibrations. Yeah.
Your brother talks about good vibes. State has some bad vibes.
Oh, terrible
and Shane
vibes.
has built up a really, really efficient armor that just pushes back those vibes and reverberates it back to.
Now we're getting into Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, I have turned the bad vibes against them for sure.
Mary says, "I love that." We have Denise Calden Sorkness, who has linked the stuff about the misallocation of USG, which is University of Georgia State there.
Yeah.
That we have not been able to address fully, and we.
It's coming, Denise. We have not forgotten. It is kind of one of those things where I'm doing some of my own research into this right now, and before we launch into this, which it's coming because we're, like we said, we're hitting campaign season here in very short order. I think exposing all the wickedness possible in the current administration here in Georgia, man, yeah, I love that kind of stuff, obviously.
So I have a pet peeve with a little twinge of anger behind it to say to that. Not to Denise, but it makes me think of another situation. there are some times when people who have an issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, whatever their cause is, or they can have multiple causes, but they have this one cause that they think is the most important thing ever. The liberty movement is pretty small. If you add like all the allies of the liberty movement, or all the people who have their own liberty movement, there's different liberty movements and people care about different things, but that's still small. Even if you go as broad as possible, it's pretty small. Sometimes people have different strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a strategy of being a Liberty Republican, and there's a strategy of doing the Libertarian Party. There's a strategy of the LP Mises Caucus, and there's a strategy of talking about voter integrity, and there's a strategy of people who think that voting is violence, which is not. And some people who take offense that their idea is intrinsically the best idea and that everybody else is wrong, and then will attack the liberty movement and people who have the burden of proof is on you to prove that their strategy with their intentions is wrong or not productive or intrinsically violent.
Yeah.
So unless you can prove that, and if you can prove that, there's some people who are swindlers. Okay, there's the Joel Osteens of the world who and many more swindlers. I was trying to find other examples. But
I love it that Joel Osteen was the first swindler. I'll tell you what, that guy just looks like a swindler. The fact that he packs in mega church, like it.
So his wife is worse sometimes. I have a colleague at work who gets a lot out of Joel Osteen. I tried to tell him he's a swindler, but he gets some kind of encouragement. And I think that's great. But he said, "Wow, as much as I get encouragement, even though I know what you're saying, Banks." Mm-hmm. Joel Osteen's wife does a horrible job, and there's this interview or something. It's both of them, and she's asked, "You guys have like hundreds of millions of dollars that you've made off of this. What is the justification when you read the Bible as well, and humility and meekness and helping others? That like how do you justify this in your mind?" She goes first and says, "Well, we have to keep the lights on."
Yeah,
and I'm just like, cringeworthy.
Duh, Banks.
I was a Joel Osteen fan, I'd be like, oh, why that doesn't like you're like the Queen of France who's like let them eat cake. Like you are disassociated from reality completely.
Oh, it's just this is gonna piss off a lot of people, but the Pope said the same thing. I'm kidding.
He could have, but I would see like if he was asked the same questions, like why do you need the gold scepter?
Yeah. And the
like
throne,
find me the example for the gold scepter, which is probably worth, I don't know, millions of dollars.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the Vatican is worth. I don't think anybody actually knows what the Vatican is worth. Oh, probably at least that much. And
like if you take all the possessions of the Catholic Church, I would imagine it could go into a trillion.
Real estate alone.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus. Yeah. It's
what's a country worth? Because the Vatican is a small country. Right?
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah, and it's I don't know. I'll digress. Next.
Anyways, that was just my pet peeve of don't attack people necessarily in the liberty movement. The burden of proof is on you, and if you can't like be autocritical, if you can't prove it, then maybe you're missing something. We're all missing something, so that's okay. That's not something to be uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question is, hey guys, from Neb, which is Nebraska, I guess. Oh, it's Jeremy. He's awesome. What's up, man? You're not in Matt's district anymore. Makes me real sad because he needs your vote. Mary, who says brilliant. Stanford Gary says, where can I get Shane T. Hazel for U.S. Senate sign? Also Matt Gertler for U.S. House rep sign. Somebody take my money. Ha ha ha. Enjoying the stream today.
Go ahead with the Matt Gertler side, and I'll answer.
No signs for Congress yet.
On the Matt Gertler side?
Yeah,
none on this side either. What I imagine I'm going to do, and this is an idea, is I'm going to find somebody who will do this for money.
Like Prince on Demand?
Yeah, because you know what, man? Like, thank you first and foremost for wanting to put one of my signs in your yard. I mean, I'm humbled. But at the same time, right now, I mean, I'm a one-man show. And I don't know if it will always be a one-man show. I kind of want to try to do this thing where I don't know, almost a proof of concept, right? Like one man can do this, and I'm going to write the book on how it's done, right? And so I don't know, maybe I'll publish it someday and show people, hey, this is what I did. This is what you can do. This is how you can do everything in terms of getting to a certain point. And maybe be the first person to do it. At least since, I don't know, the late 17 and early 1800s or something, where campaigns were actually started running.
Well, I'd say this. I think that, and this makes it sound like an old person, but I have to go back in history. I think as we evolve in the modern age, that's what makes it sound like an old person, like the modern age. It's not that.
It's 2020, right?
But as we evolve, if the system remains, so the system where we elect people to tell us what to do, and it's not great, and we have to have some rebellious people there.
We elect overlords
to stop the others.
Yeah.
I get it. But if this system kind of continues in some form or another, which I assume that it will in some form or another, I think that what we've seen with the dissolution, this is why I'm happy that people like Hillary Clinton and Bloomberg are running.
Yeah.
These people disillusion other people to such an extent that they are hopefully to some degree freed in their minds. The Bernie people know that they need to be skeptical of the DNC and of the media. At least a lot of them do.
Well,
I'm not saying they all do. And even the Republicans, Trump played into that, and it was very smart. But the Republicans to some degree also know, hey, the Jeb Bushes and the George Bushes and the first Bush too, all the Bushes can't be trusted, and we can't trust the media. Then people take advantage of that, and Fox News has some credibility and so forth. That's sad, but whatever. I think that as we go along and more people learn, and hopefully society continues to teach them, right? Continues to teach them, and maybe these independent outlets like you and me and people who do stuff like Gary Vee even and spread a message that, hey, the truth is not what is big and loud out there necessarily. There's all this other truth. I think it'll be easier for people to campaign on smaller budgets where they're just spreading the message. And as long as that message is accessible, people go find the message that they think is right.
Yeah, I think it is a much better use of resources. I mean, the idea that there are literally millions and millions of dollars that are, I don't know, just in my estimation, wasted on a popularity contest all the time, when that could be put towards whatever charity you want to support out there. God, what a awful thing. I mean, think $2 billion in the last presidential campaign just from Hillary Clinton, not to mention all the other people that ran and spent money. Not then you look at TV networks and everything else.
I mean, if you take that and then you extrapolate it to all the people who spent time and
effort,
like volunteers who drove to an event
Sure.
or who didn't work to do something campaign wise and so forth, the productivity. The only pushback I'd say on that is, I know that that world has those kind of depressing facets of, hey, look at all the good we could do instead of this, which for the most part ends up in negative consequences, right? I think it still is free speech, and it's free speech reacting to this world. We can't change the world at this exact second. We can change the world over time. So at that exact second, it's people exercising their free speech. A lot of it, which I don't like.
Yeah.
Tons of free speech I don't like. But the world is always going to exist. There are dangerous and horrible things in the world, even if you take government out of it, right? And so it's just us reacting to.
It gives me an idea of just sitting here is, as funding comes in to the campaign, I think maybe there's a certain percentage of it that I'm going to, dedicate towards charity, and actually go out and do the charity and film it and make sure that it is at least recorded so people can see, hey, listen, we can be the answer. David Gay, the guy that's in charge of Liberty Memes over there, what that guy does in terms of charity, in terms of the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that he has raised just by going out and doing charity is absolutely amazing. There's one that I adore. I think it is genius. And so on, I think it's Friday nights, they get together, they do pizza, right? And so what happens is it's who needs to eat, who needs a pizza, send me your address, and then people out there find out who needs a pizza, and they get on with it, whoever is in their local Domino's or Pizza Hut or whatever, and they send those guys pizzas. I think that is one of the coolest things around. And are there people who are going to scam the system? Sure there are. There are people who are going to be like, hell yeah, I'll take a free pizza. But at the same time, the fact that you can reach out through the internet right now and feed somebody.
The next time you criticize Facebook, realize that it is literally feeding people.
Yeah.
Okay, Facebook is just a tool, and it's not a perfect tool, but it also does wonderful things.
I was saying,
and we're circumventing government regulations because you're not allowed to necessarily, in many places, just give people free food because there's health codes and laws against it. And I almost sounded like Donald Trump for a second.
You almost did. Laws against.
Laws against. Oh wow!
You're getting there.
I'm so excited.
I want to also highlight one of our other really great supporters, and that's Tams. Tams put out a tweet last night about something to the effect of, Twitter being a platform that was good, and I think that is remarkable. And I said something, and I retweeted it, and I said something to the effect of, you need to be looking for these people who are out there who are saying that Twitter and social media, like places like Facebook, are a good place to have talks about ideas. And what's even more interesting is these ideas of peace and liberty and free markets. And on these same sites, they are getting oppressed and trashed and have their followers pushed down and they're kind of, I don't know, shadow banned for lack of a better term. These are the same people that are saying those things. Like this is still a good platform for us to have ideas and talk. They are shadow banned and pushed down, and I was just like, good for her. Like those type of people who can continue to find the positive and find the good things out there, like what David does and what she's doing. And man, what a absolutely remarkable thing. And I mean, God, I wish it was a little bit more free where people could actually not be suppressed as much.
Facebook, Twitter, the fact that we have cars, and that means that we can connect with much more people in a day than we would be able without it, because we stop at the Starbucks drive-through and we pick up our kids at school and we go to work, and like that's not something we could do all those miles in a day if we didn't have cars. It's all technology for the most part. I might be wrong with some of those, but I think all technology for the most part is just an exponential ability for people to communicate
and help each other.
It's nothing else. Like Facebook doesn't matter. We have more ability to communicate. Facebook is just communication. That's all it is. Yeah. If you're criticizing Facebook, you're criticizing communication, and that seems pretty stupid.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. What do we got next there, Banksy?
Just for Stanford, if you donate to Matt right now, and once he has signs, and don't worry, you'll know we're going to be like putting posts everywhere. Just say, hey, I donated. The person who would verify that would be me. So. Yeah.
So
and we'll send you a sign after that.
T-shirts and signs are coming. It'll probably be a link to go do it. It may not give the campaign anything, but if you want to do that, then by all means, I'm all for it.
Cool. Then we have Denise again. She says prayers and full support for a veteran's widow, mother of Navy officer, author, higher education whistleblower.
Yeah.
So, do we know somebody particular that we're talking about?
No, it's her.
Oh, it's her.
Yeah.
Of course, Denise. Stanford said, Cherco yee yee. Oh, Cherokee County yee yee. Cool. Funny. Cherco. That's funny. It's like in Shane's old county, Forsyth County. Foco. And then there's a brewery in North Forsyth County called No Foco, like North Fulton County.
Yeah, North Fulton, Forsyth County.
Yeah.
Yeah. No Foco.
Not Fulton, Forsyth. Yeah.
Yep.
Mary says yes. Mary says thank you. Justin says the real question, is one eye open or both?
One eye open or both? Oh, a shooting. Both, obviously, especially on that optic. I mean, most optics, I will run both eyes open. Sometimes I'll get into it if it's a long shot in terms of a pistol. I'll close my left eye, but most of the time it's both eyes open.
That's how I've been told the real men do it.
It's preference. It takes some, it takes some doing, man. I mean, it's training. We used to have this guy that Pat Rogers, and he had this great saying where it was like, practice doesn't make perfect. And you sit there and you're like, all right, what's the punchline?
My whole life I've been told it makes perfect.
Yeah, it's that practice makes permanent. And so he goes in and he keeps going and, talks about, weapons manipulation and all that kind of stuff. And then he goes down to, so if all this is perfect, then perfect practice makes perfect. And so I was like, I like that, man. And so you don't skimp on the details. You don't, you don't kind of fudge what you're doing. You put all your effort into the details of manipulation. And one of those details is shooting, especially with a red dot or something like that, with both eyes open.
It's actually a really deep statement if you think about it. It would be the same thing as like just doing something doesn't mean you're going to get a result. Doing the thing correctly means you're going to get the good result.
Yeah. I was explaining to my kid the other day that the difference between a novice and a master is the master has failed more times than the novice has tried, right? And so, in terms of jiu-jitsu, he just, eventually he wants to have his own dojo and
really?
Oh yeah, man.
That's so.
I'll tell you right now.
I love hearing kids' ambitions because their mind is more open and they like at some point a lot of people get bogged down and think, okay, well, I'm going to get a job and
Jackson
it's going to pay this much.
Especially geared to this kind of thing, man. He came to me the other day and just fun side story, right? He comes to me the other day and he says, I want to make some money. And I was like, all right.
Get in government.
I said, what do you want to do? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, well, let's do this. And so we went through this exercise, right? Of it's during school hours. Let me teach you how to start a little career right here on this street right now. And so I said, the lady across the street, she's elderly, okay? She needs her trash taken out on this night. What you should probably do is walk your little able body over there, down to the door, knock on the door, introduce yourself, and say, hi, I'm Jackson Hazel. I was wondering if I could take out your trash on this night. And she, I think she declined. But then he came back and we started talking about it a little more. I said, you don't have to take no for an answer every time, right? You can try again another day if she's having trouble, whatever. But I said, all right, now let's draw this out. And so basically what I did is I said, this is you, right? You are an entity of one. Now what you've done is gone over to this old lady's house who could use some help, and you've offered your services, right? So now you've introduced yourself. You've already doubled your network. So now she may not need that help, but does she know people up down the street that might need help? Sure. You were going to do that for free. Now you're going to ask her for 3 people on the street that she knows, and you're going to go knock on their door, right? Or she's going to go tell them, hey, there's this little kid up the street who offered to come over and take my trash out. And one of those people might say, man, I'd really like to have my trash taken out. And they might even offer you money. So I don't care if it's $3 or $5 or $10. You might get all 3 of these people, right? Mm-hmm. And now what you've done is you're starting to get into her network. So now you can go over here and maybe you can make, $17, $18 from just taking out trash from these people. Now let's expand that, because now those people know people, right? And as you grow up, the ability to expand just within your neighborhood to just going over and taking the trash out for people can start to bring income into you. And you just saw, as I'm explaining this to him, his eyes are lighting up because he's seeing the path to taking himself and nothing extra in terms of equipment or anything, and going in and taking out people's trash and making some money for it.
That's
I was
really
just like,
cool,
it's really cool, man. Like between that and the economic conversations that Jackson and I have already, I'm super pumped about what he's going to do.
What's one of the first things you did as a kid to make money?
Mowed lawns for sure. Yeah, I my neighbor's lawn, neighbors up and down the street, grandparents. I started doing that probably when I could push a lawnmower. So I was probably 8, 9 years old, somewhere in there, and it was difficult. Bigger yards, fescue grass, big hills, things like that. It was a difficult thing, especially in Georgia.
That's a little bit younger than I thought you were going to say.
I was a big kid, I could push a lawnmower.
That's pretty cool. I would make Christmas cards.
Really?
At my local school,
yeah.
There was paper and there was a printer. So my best friend and I would get like the cardstock paper that cost us $0 and the printing cost us $0. And during lunch, which is 2 hours in France, I was 12, 13, 14. I did it a few years in a row. We'd print out all this stuff and fold the piece of paper in half.
Sure.
Not perfect stuff, but we would go on Google and find an image, and then we would go door to door with our scooters. Like, I'm not talking like little scooters, and we'd just go door to door and we'd knock on doors and try to sell those.
That's cool.
And we would make good money. The first time we did it, we made like 300 or 400 euros.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is in France?
Yeah, we sold them for €2 each.
That's crazy. That's pretty industrious of you guys.
It was really cool.
What do you got, man? What do you got over there?
More questions. Stanford has me in a bind because I don't know what that means. He says calf is theft. CAF.
Calf is theft.
CAF.
Please explain.
I don't know what calf means. So.
I don't either.
Sorry, Stanford. Trump caters to people's wants and fears, not what they need to hear. I would agree in many ways. Adam Godwell says, Bart Simpson, Banks, I was answering your question concerning language used on Simpsons. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you, Adam. Sarah Satterfield. Hey, Sarah. We've missed you. I think Adam's comment about Bart was referencing The Simpsons. Yes, I'm silly. Justin says, do you believe that You Can Walk on Water was me singing the opening song? Is the absence due to the live show just making you aware? And Sarah says, Chelsea wants me to tell you that she is so happy you're running for office, Shane, and she is ready for all the door knocking you and Matt Gertler need.
Boy, got a whole state to cover now. Isn't that crazy?
And the last one here is Adam. He says, perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we've gotten Kimberly Gertler on, who is Matt's mom. Meredith has been watching. Got Rachel Malone, who goes to my church. James Alvarado, who is of the Term Limits.
Yep.
Are you still doing that, James? I wonder. I haven't seen much term limit stuff. And Ken Pullen, who is a state rep.
Yep.
There's other people here, but there's just too many to scroll through.
Good to have everybody. And I think we can transition into this point. We're a little over an hour already.
Okay.
We want to talk about the Democratic debate. Just a smidge.
I would love. So I've only seen clips, but I've seen a lot of clips. I would imagine I saw maybe 75% of the interesting stuff.
Yeah.
It was crazy, man. It's actually fun. Like, there's this time crunch, right, that they're seeing. And at this point, all the optimism that each candidate had, or the fear that they're having of losing their edge, is making them bubble up. They're like, it's time to attack. And Bloomberg, I think, kind of induced that in people as well.
Before we get into the actual clips, do you think Bloomberg has done this thing the right way?
The right way.
So
everything in association with government is the wrong way. No,
I agree. I mean,
I think it's
getting involved.
I think it's a novel way he's done it.
Yeah.
Novel doesn't mean good. A novel way he's done it, and I think that if you see what Trump did, like, novelty works, right? He's got these signs, streets.
Oh yeah.
These billboards. These billboards that have these ridiculous sayings on them. One says Trump
cheats at golf,
and Bloomberg doesn't.
Yeah,
he's got these all over the country.
He's trying to out Trump
with even more ridiculous statements, and I think that does, like, bring attention.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the right attention.
He's got this, like, if you're just talking about, like, logistics of politics, where he in advance said he was going to wait till Super Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I find that odd. It might be good because the strategy would be you're waiting for all the other people to drop off, and then you've got this, like, savior attitude. I would imagine that a lot of the DNC establishment is in on this.
Mm-hmm.
And has coordinated with, hey, there's a few people that we're okay with winning. We're not okay with Bernie winning.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, Bernie, Tulsi, those guys got to go.
And we can push that message, and you'll be the savior.
It's funny.
Which is what he's being advertised. He's being advertised as the savior. All these other ones are not working, and Bernie doesn't exist anyways. And he's, like, going to... Yeah. It's... I don't think it's a stupid way of doing it.
I think it's genius in terms of... strategy. I say that I don't know if you can do this if you're not a billionaire, first and foremost, right? Like, this might be exclusively a way to do this if you've got that type of money to throw at a campaign from the get-go. And so to miss the white noise and the cluttered field and the scrutiny from the media and everything else out there, good or bad. Mm-hmm. I think it's a genius move on Bloomberg and his strategist's part in terms of making sure that he is not out there wasting time, which is extremely valuable. Maybe he was off in the periphery, even shoring up people who would support him and getting donations and pledges and things like that, which took him out of the crosshairs of anybody and everybody, including probably the most important person in the race, Donald Trump, during that time frame.
In some ways, I think he's actually gained time. And so there's an idea that if you're in a meeting, I am very bad at applying this, but I should. Mm-hmm. If you're in a meeting with multiple people and you're discussing an idea to come to some kind of consensus,
right?
If you express yourself first and the loudest, people are going to be offended is not the right word, but they're going to not listen to you as much because they also have their opinion to put in. And if you wait if you have enough confidence in your ideas, if you wait till the end and make everybody feel heard and feel like you're reacting to what they're saying, not just wanting to impose your will, that you'll have a better time negotiating and making your point. So the fact that he waited and let all these people and let all the narratives build, right? The narratives that, well, Buttigieg doesn't have enough Black and Latino support, and Bernie doesn't exist.
Bernie's going to get canceled by the DNC.
If you let all those things build and then play on that and be like, hey, look, I've been here paying attention. This is not what he's been doing. Okay, he's been playing this for a very, 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 very long time.
I agree.
I'm talking years. I'm talking like back when Donald Trump was first elected. I'm talking before that, just like Trump did, which is this has been festering in his mind for a long time. Because he's an authoritarian. I was gonna make you have to bleep something out, but he's an authoritarian, and that's what authoritarians think of when they see all the power that's been condensed in that seat. But I think he can come across as, I've been peacefully looking back. I'm not only the savior, but I'm reasoned. I've taken all these things into consideration. Things that he doesn't even have to, like the rumor mill like runs itself, right?
Sure.
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we won't get into it yet. I want to. Should we play the one clip where he goes after Bernie?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Do you have that, or do you want me to do it?
I do not have that.
Okay.
I have 3 other clips.
I've got it. Let me make sure.
I have 3 non-debate clips actually.
Oh, because
I didn't have time to get the debate clip.
This is one of the debate clips that I saw. I think I was on my travels back from Europe this week, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, this is so juicy. It's so good. This is the one where Mini Mike goes after Bernie Sanders. For you guys on live, apologize. You can look it up later, but this is awesome.
What a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What did I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, House 1.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, House 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me for that. Where is your home? Which tax haven do you have your home?
New York City, thank you very much, and I pay all my taxes.
So I love that Bernie, as much as I have all the criticism for him, he had to, because he wasn't prepared for this, which is stupid. He should have been prepared for this.
I agree.
He had to honor honestly, and maybe his mind is warped and he doesn't understand it. And he really, as soon as he became a millionaire, saw that it was maybe his mind is so small that he never thought he could.
Bernie's really a socialist?
He could ever be a millionaire. Maybe that's actually the problem. Now that he can be a millionaire, he thinks, oh, if me, small-minded Bernie, can be a millionaire, everybody must be able to be a millionaire. So he answers it honestly, and it would be a fine answer for many people. A fine answer, not like the great, but for most people, it'd be a fine answer. Yeah, these are what my 3 homes are for, like the purpose of my products, which I don't have any problem with people having whatever purpose they want for the things they have. But the fact that he has to say, like many Vermontans, Vermontans. Vermontans.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first time I've realized that's what he
said.
That's what
he said.
Vermontans, I have a summer camp.
Yeah.
This is another example of Queen.
Let them eat their cake.
What's her name though? This French queen.
Oh gosh.
It's not Elizabeth. It's Queen Victoria. Says let them eat cake. This is the same thing. I like lots of Vermontans. I have a summer camp. Summer camp is even worse. They say summer home. Don't say summer camp.
Cottage or something. Like, that's what we call them.
Summer estate.
That's what we call them in northern Michigan. We call them cottages, right? And I don't have one. I wish I had one. And I wish I didn't have to pay Michigan property tax or anything like that if I had one. But it's
just so funny.
The idea of a socialist having multiple places that are, let's face it, living in DC is not cheap. So if you actually have a house instead of just a single room apartment there, that's expensive. Obviously that your house, that your main dwelling, sure. But then to be a socialist and then say, I've got even another residence that is an indulgence of your ability to make money in a society. And I'm not going to say it's a capitalist society anymore, but the fact that
that has capitalist channels,
right? Yeah, there's still this illusion that it's a capitalist society. Basically, you've put yourself out there, you've done some things, you wrote a book, you made a couple $1 million.
You could phrase it. You could phrase it truthfully by saying capitalism allowed him to make that money.
Sure.
Despite
it wasn't
what's around
socialism that helped him. That's for damn sure.
Well, no, because he thinks that if you wanted to write a book, you'd have to go to a government agency and be like, hey, I need the funding for this book. He talks about this not recently, but decades ago when he's talking about how wonderful communist Russia is, because they have all these programs for the arts, and he's like, all these creative people get to go to the government and get their things funded that they could never get funded in a capitalist society. Which, if you can't get funded stuff in a capitalist society, maybe your stuff sucks.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. Or maybe it's not popular.
Or
it might not suck. Maybe it's not popular.
There's absolutely no demand in the market. That's all it is. Yeah,
I jumped to a like TPUSA type thing.
Eddie, I think it's incredible. This is amazing. How long has this been going on? How long has Bernie been at the forefront of politics in American culture now? At least the past 5 years, right? I mean, if you take into account when they started running for president in for the 2016 election, it was probably late 2015, early 2016. So when you look at that as 4 years and some change, this socialist, nobody's ever called him out. Have you ever seen the car that Bernie has been pictured in?
So that's not actually Bernie, from what I understand.
Oh, it's a show. It's a Photoshop.
That's somebody who looks like Bernie.
Oh, I tell you what.
I've at the very least seen that people are like, "Hey, this isn't actually Bernie," so I don't know if that's real.
Yeah, well, all right, speculation. I won't speculate. But for Mike, the first time out on a debate stage, to just come out there and hit Bernie in the mouth like that, I think it does tremendous things in terms of moving some of the support. I'm not saying Bernie bros are going anywhere, but I think there is a ton of other people out there, the Elizabeth Warren crowd, the Buttigieg crowd that may be like, I don't know.
Buttigieg is the only one who has some like high horse to stand on because he lives a pretty normal life.
Yeah, well, he's a mayor and not an aristocrat out
Elizabeth
there.
Warren certainly doesn't, being paid $400,000 a year to teach one class.
Sure.
Bloomberg certainly doesn't. He's like one of the richest people in the world.
Yeah. And who else is up there still? I mean,
you've got
and Joe Biden.
You've got Klobuchar, who I believe is somewhat independently wealthy. I'm not
maybe
100%. I think she was in business before she became a U.S. senator.
Yeah.
And then Biden, who he has all the government stuff that
he's got all the
makes him
connections
rich somehow. Somehow, just magically, you're in government, you're part of the establishment, you're rich a few years later.
Yeah, that's inside trading for you. But at any rate, that was the first thing that I saw coming out of this debate, and I was just like, good. You know what? Finally, somebody is at least going to call the socialist out, and I'm happy for that.
Absolutely. So apparently, there's one. Do you have any other clips pulled up?
I not on the debate. I think I was thinking we probably wouldn't have a ton of time, but I knew you had a few things.
I didn't have time to pull up debate clips. I have some other clips about Bloomberg himself, but I do want to pull up something. It was between Warren, Bloomberg debate. Elizabeth Warren, to her credit, gave quite an amazing, like, instead of being all like lovey-dovey and we're going to help all the people, like she was an attack dog at one point.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it here. Entertain the people.
I'm actually kind of fond of doing this whole live thing with people.
Here we go.
It's very interesting.
You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg.
I actually welcomed Mayor Bloomberg to the stage. I thought that he shouldn't be hiding behind his TV ads. I don't think you look at Donald Trump and say, we need someone richer in the White House.
Let's put forward somebody who actually lives and works in a middle-class neighborhood in an industrial Midwestern city. Let's put forward somebody who's actually a Democrat. Look.
Pretty good, Buttigieg.
That I'm
here it is.
Really worried about, embarrassed about, was how it turned out with stop and frisk. It got out of control.
And it's not whether he apologized or not, it's the policy. The policy was abhorrent, and it was, in fact, a violation of every right people have.
I have no tolerance for the kind of behavior that the Me Too movement has exposed. In my foundation, the person that runs it's a woman. 70% of the people there are women. In my company, lots and lots of women have big responsibilities. They get paid exactly the same as men.
And I hope you heard what his defense was. I've been nice to some women. Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
There's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them.
We are not going to beat Donald Trump with a man who has who knows how many non-disclosure agreements and the drip, drip, drip of stories of women saying they have been harassed and discriminated against.
You might not like the social justice warrior stuff, but if you're talking just pure political strategy, and I'm sorry it took so long to find that clip. If you're talking,
that's gold.
This is what she should have been doing since the beginning. If she had done this since the beginning, so the problem is, it's very understandable. Politics in the beginning, you're like, okay, there's going to be less people at some point, so I don't want to piss off their supporters. That's what I think. It's much more fun to run against one person when they're an incumbent, because you just get to hound on them forever. But political strategy, if she had started this much earlier, I think it would have been, she would be much more popular right now.
I think the DNC would be more popular right now. The fact that these guys have just kind of been going out there telling everybody how they're going to rob them and bribe other people for votes, right? Like, that's not exciting to anybody.
Well, it does work to some degree.
It works, but it doesn't build an excitement, you know?
And it's not like everybody on that stage has a bunch of stuff that we've talked about where they're a hypocrite.
Yeah.
One of the ones is Elizabeth Warren, so somebody else could do this to her.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she's had the opportunity multiple times. She's had the opportunity to do this to Joe Biden. I mean, if she had started talking about sniffing hair, the Democrats would have gotten a little bit weirded out at first, because we're not supposed to eat our own. But she would have been really popular. You can rile people up when about creepy dudes, okay? It's really easy to rile anybody up about creepy dudes. Like, creepy dudes? Like, I don't like creepy dudes, and I'm a dude. I especially don't like creepy dudes around, like, children.
Yeah.
That's not that hard.
Around your daughter. I mean, who's just entering the workplace, who's maybe an aide or a secretary or something like that, and a lot of these positions, like, this is partly what the DNC was missing, right? There wasn't any real infighting. There wasn't this calling to the carpet. There was just this omission and lack of real, ferocity and truth. And I'm not saying politics needs to be this way. What I'm saying is the DNC was flat, right? It was flat. With Bloomberg coming in now, there is some animosity. There are some punches being thrown. Maybe it's getting late in the hour, and we're starting to see something here where it might even breathe a little bit of energy and life into the DNC. Probably a good thing for the DNC.
Yeah, I would really prefer this be a discussion of ideas. I think somebody's character matters. Mm-hmm. I would prefer this be a discussion of ideas. I think if Tulsi was on there, and she didn't do this either, Tulsi. She did it a little bit. There was some pushing back against the fact that she's the only one who believes this about foreign policy. Mm-hmm. But if she had done this or had been able to do this, I'm sure some Tulsi fans would be like, well, she didn't get the opportunity because she wasn't in as many debates. I think it would have been very different. But if we had Bernie could do this because his ideas are somewhat different than the rest of the people's there. But if we had somebody who was a Democrat and who had actually different ideas, then you could start having a discussion of ideas, which, to Republicans' credit, they're a little bit better about talking about criticizing each other's ideas than Democrats are.
Yeah.
Democrats are a little bit more collectivist, than Republicans, who are also collectivists in many, many ways.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a little bit more dissent, maybe because there's some liberty Republicans out there. Yeah.
So the other thing that I want to bring up, and this was sparked by just some curiosity that I had. I see countless stories and things out there on the internet, and one of the things that I saw was a height comparison between Mini Mike, which is what Donald Trump has now labeled Bloomberg, and Donald Trump, and it was a picture of a whole bunch of dudes, ex-presidents, Bill Clinton, maybe Barack Obama, the Mike Bloomberg, Donald Trump, and I was like, these guys all look pretty chummy to me, right? Like this whole idea of the WWF or the fake wrestling on screen versus what's really going on behind the curtain, right? Mm-hmm. You see this crap all the time. If you look through pictures in the past, it paints this story, right? It paints this story of these guys they don't hate each other. They don't even hate each other's ideas. Like, these guys all know each other. They've all been hanging out for probably decades, right? They've at least known each other for decades. The fact that they're going out and having some beers and playing golf together tells me that they're doing a lot more than just, squabbling and making fun of each other on TV. Because seriously, I know right now there are people that I would not go and golf with, because let's face it, golf is a minimum of a 4-hour endeavor if you're going to play 18 holes. I don't like golf. I definitely don't want to spend 4 hours on a golf course with somebody I don't like, right? Like, there's about one person or maybe two people that I like golfing with, because they don't take it seriously, and they go out there and they whack a white ball, and when it goes in the woods, they're like, well, screw it, drop, let's go. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. The connections through pictures that all these guys have. Mike Bloomberg's the same way. There are pictures out there with Ghislaine Maxwell. I can never say her silly name. Ghislaine Maxwell, the right hand of Jeffrey Epstein, the procurer of girls and kids and things like that to very powerful people. There are pictures of Mike Bloomberg out there with Harvey Weinstein, who is under trial right now for all sorts of perverted pedophilia. I mean, it's rampant. And to see all these billionaires who are friends with these known pedophiles and procurers and just god-awful people, it raises a lot more questions than just, what are the NDAs for, and the non-disclosure agreements. Who are these people really, and what are their connections, and what are they covering up that nobody's talking about?
So I agree with a lot of that, but I'm going to play devil's advocate because
I knew it was coming.
I like doing that. Conspiracies scare me.
No, it's just a question.
No.
It's just questions. I'm not saying
that was like a statement to like weird people out. Conspiracies scare me. Why do they scare me? Because they can lead to untruths in the same way that anything can. And so when you can have some kind of rational argument of why something may not be what the conspiracy says, mm-hmm. I think it's at least useful to look at it as a possibility. And so some of it is just normal. Right. I am sure there are people behind the scenes who don't hate each other as much. Why can I say that? Because I have the proof, because budgets pass every freaking year and everybody gets along. In Georgia, 95% of all the state reps, Democrat and Republican, vote yes on 95% of bills.
Yep.
That is not like that is a product of a truth that they don't really disagree on a lot of stuff. But if you're just looking at people spending time together, all those people are part of an elite. Elites, the people tend to know people in their own sphere in the same way that all the heroes of our current liberty movement, Ron Paul, Jeff Deist, Dave Smith, Tom Woods, Judge Napolitano, Ron Paul. Did I say Ron Paul already?
Yeah.
I did. Ron Paul twice because he deserves it. Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, all those people. Like, you see them at events together.
Yeah.
You see them taking pictures with each other. They tend to be in the same circle. And so I think that there is at least a portion of what we see in that regard that makes our skin crawl and makes George Carlin use that awesome joke, which is it's a big club and you're
not in it.
You're not in it. Like, it makes sense, but some of it is also normal. I would venture to say that there are some of those people who hang around each other who do hate at least some of their friends. I hate the ideas of my sisters. I hate some of their ideas. I actually love the foundation of where they are.
You take pictures with them? No. Just
funny. But I would venture to say that there are some things that Donald Trump, as much as he's played golf with Bloomberg and played golf with maybe not Jeb Bush, but Bill Clinton, mm-hmm. I would say that Donald Trump probably does hate some of the ideas that those people have. I would also say that Bill Clinton and Bloomberg don't have that many ideas that are founded on any principles, so there might not be that much to hate there because they're just these beings that don't have principles to a large degree. Maybe not 100% completely for those who want to also play devil's advocate with me, but to a large degree. So it's easy to be friends with somebody who doesn't care that much, especially if you're also somebody who doesn't care that much about principles.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, man. It's
Cool.
It's popularity and personality contests out there in political land most of the time, and thank God for the Libertarian Party where there actually is the party of principle. I'm just kidding.
What's our timeline there?
We are actually coming up now. We fulfilled our almost compulsory hour and a half. I'm kidding.
Compulsory. Well, it is part of a contract that you and I have entered in. So yeah, the other things that I had, which were some more clips that I didn't find in time because Shane was like, we're going to start the live at this time.
That's right. We got stuff
which
to
was
do.
a very good idea, by the way. Were just some things that Bloomberg has said over the past few weeks, and some might be further. He talked about how this disparaging comments about farmers and how farmers, you put the seed in the ground and you cover it up, you put water and it just pops up. But now we're in the age of technology, and people who do those kind of jobs need more gray matter. Basically saying that farmers are stupid.
Man, let me tell you something, Mike Bloomberg, from a guy that's worked a little land. The amount of education when you first begin to understand what it's going to take to bring either something to harvest or animal husbandry, boy, it is astonishing.
Even if you take out the amount of knowledge and intricacy that you can bring to that, if you just bring the amount of care that things need, you can do menial things, which I don't think farming is menial necessarily. There are parts of farming that are menial. There's parts of most things that are menial, but you can put the care and love into the things you do, which makes it intrinsically better. Okay, the proof is farming. Actually, you've got I don't know, big box farming, we'll call it, or big farming, who does things in a more streamlined way, right? Doing it in that streamlined way, the actual final product needs less gray matter, at least less detail on it. But if you want to create a product that's more valuable, you might not use pesticides and have to pick things by hand or something like that. There is, on top of the fact that you do need gray matter for farming, love and care is also of great value, because that's what he's demeaning. So he's saying that there's less value in farmers and less value in farm jobs because it's so easy.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, dude, from a guy that's never, from that guy who's never farmed a damn day in his life. They haven't learned a damn thing. They just don't understand. You guys are going to sit there and simplify some jobs that, while you may think are meaningful, are you don't understand the nuances. And the thing with farming is you can be a good farmer in a single place. In that place, you may know anything and everything there is to know about that environment.
How the wind flows through that valley that comes over the ridge, and
the moisture that comes off of a river or a pond or a lake, and what you've got to do, the sweetening of the soil, the turning, the rotation, the just how to fix the equipment that you're working with. And I mean, we're talking about even basic equipment. Does he know what a cultivator is, or a rake, or what's the oh boy, I just had this on the top of my
a hoe.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows what a hoe is.
That was a not planned layup there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
And that's a sports reference. I shouldn't know.
Yeah,
I shouldn't even know that.
A cultipacker is like, he doesn't understand what any of these things are. Now let's get on to a even larger scale. The ability of people to program tractors to go out and drive and hit GPS coordinates by themselves without people even on them. You think that is a menial job? You got a combine that's worth millions of dollars that's running around in a field without anybody, that's being paced by other vehicles to pick up whatever we're getting, whatever we're harvesting. Mike Blue, what a joke. And that's why Democrats will lose, because guys like this and guys in the propaganda machines, they don't know anything. They haven't learned a damn thing about, what I'll call quote unquote middle America, that aren't in, the coastal type regions, that have never done this type of hard work.
So a little bit more of an esoteric culture reference, but you can't stop the signal. If somebody knows what that's from, I will give you an extra sticker or something cool. You can't stop the signal, and I'm going to take that as you can't stop the truth. The truth is the truth. And so when somebody who doesn't understand the truth, or who is trying to put down the truth, it's going to come out. And Bloomberg has a record of doing this over and over and over. I think he thinks that he's saying something smart, saying something deep, saying something that is poignant about the situation we're in. Like, I just did it. I just used some words that are a little bit fancier just to sound like I know what I'm speaking of. This is just a random guess from Just Banks. I just spoke of myself in the third person too. Awesome. I'm doing a very good Michael Bloomberg impression here. And so I think that the fact that he doesn't have the truth in him, or he's trying to oppress the truth. Yeah. This makes these kind of things come out. And he's got the rec. He said that. He said to some Jewish guys, who are the Jewish guys who wear the hats and have
rabbis?
The longer beards.
Oh, Hasidic.
Yeah, Hasidic Jews. He talked about how right now the country basically isn't ready to do this, but to fix healthcare, what we have to do is we have to tell old people that they don't get their cancer treatment and that they just have to die. He didn't say it that way, but he said it in almost just as bad.
Take the pill.
And he has some other ones. I had one on the top of my head, but I can't remember. I think this just spills out because he doesn't
Donald Trump
understand.
is going to eat every one of these guys.
Donald Trump
alive.
does a much better job understanding your average American.
Yeah.
Much better job.
You know who's going to even eat both their lunches is Jacob Hornberger. Can't wait for that, man. I am excited about what's going to happen with the Libertarian Party this year. I think there's enough force and energy that's going out there and being put into this cycle right now that some amazing things are happening. Banks, I don't know if we want to kind of wrap this one up here.
Yeah, I think so.
Right now, if you guys want to help out the show, you can go to Rebellion Pod, or I should say patreon.com/Rebellion Pod.
Actually, you can also go on Rebellion Pod, and then you just scroll down just a little bit. There's a button that says,
boy, we're coming up with all sorts of things, aren't we? We always enjoy your reviews. 5 stars. If you got the time while you're listening to this, just jump onto the app, click 5 stars. If you want to go the extra mile, actually write a little review. We'll read it here on the Rebellion. Outside of that, you can go and share the podcast with everybody on every social media. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends and family, and really push this out there. It's campaign season now. Banks is fired up. We've got more energy. We've got more, not more time, that's for damn sure. But we have got to reach a ton of people between myself, Matt Gertler, here in Georgia, and the other people out there that are running that need your help, man.
Nick Freitas, got Eric Brakey.
Yeah.
Those are probably like the big 4 names that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Who are, I mean, when we're mentioning names here and telling people that we would basically, we'd vote for them and we've
work for them and
we've donated to most of them.
You name it, yeah.
I mean, that's
a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So go out there and help them. If you're listening to this on Monday morning, ShaneHazel.com is up. I hope Antidote is up by now. If it's not, check back later. But you can donate from that website, and I am extremely humbled and really, really appreciate everything you guys are doing out there. Banks, on your side, what do you got?
I think that's it. I've enjoyed this episode. I've enjoyed it being live too. Thank you for all the comments, people.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, as always, your place for peace, liberty, free markets, a little campaigning.
We love you. We need you.
Peace.
Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff.